Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud that we have won the primary election for the United States Senate. With 85% of the boxes reporting, we have myself 40, Luther Strange at 32. This is a great victory. The attempt by the silk-stocking Washington elitists to control the vote of the people of Alabama has failed. I extend my hand of friendship to my fellow candidates who did not make this runoff, to be held on September 26. Those candidates ran an honorable and ethical campaign. They ran on their own merits and not on the negative attack ads of my opponent in this campaign. I was honored to campaign with them to make America great again. I now invite them to join with me to defeat the Washington crowd led by Mitch McConnell, who attempted to buy the vote of the people of Alabama with millions of money out of the PAC in Washington. I want to thank those of you who have worked so hard to make this campaign a success. I can't begin to address everybody that's helped. You know that. But I want to name just a few. Bill Armistead, the campaign chairman, former chairman of the Republican Party in Alabama, Rich Hobson, who acted as manager, Thomas Sparrow, who did much of the work on Twitter and other things to keep the social media running. Thomas. A brilliant strategist, actually two of them, Brett Doster and Drew Messer from Frontline Strategies. They did a wonderful job. And of course, there were many volunteers, many people that worked without pay to do the job in this campaign. Two of them were two ladies named Hannah and Maggie Ford. Where are you? I want to thank my good friend Dean Young. Dean talked to me very early on, about a year ago, whether I would consider this candidacy. And basically, I've been led to believe that God would have me consider this candidacy. And I thank him for being here tonight. Of course, there is one who has been with me for 32 years. She even had 4 children and 5 grandchildren, and she stood with me throughout this campaign, and give her a hand. But finally, I want you to understand this. We've worked this campaign with about 1/16 of the money they've gotten out of Washington. And, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the one without whom no good is possible. That's Almighty God. You know me, and you know that I tend to quote the founding father of our country, George Washington. George Washington said it would be peculiarly improper to omit in this first official act my fervent supplications to that almighty being who rules over the universe, who presides in the councils of nations, and whose providential aids can supply every human defect. We need to go back to recognition that God's hand is still on this country and on this campaign. Without God, we will never return to the greatness we were meant to have. We must be good again before we can be great. And we will never be good again without God. God is the author of our goodness. You know, I think that the voters of Alabama have just sent a powerful message to Washington, D.C., a resounding message that can't be denied. They want to stop playing games with the people of America. They want them to stop playing games with the people of Alabama and with the people of America. It's time to get up and start getting busy to bring about real change in our country. We need change in our health care. We need to repeal Obamacare. That's very simple. We need to border security yesterday. These comments about, well, it's going to take us a year, it's going to take us 2 years, that could be stopped within 1 week if we commit the military to do what they've done before under the Posse Comitatus Act and support the Border Patrol. We got to stop allowing our country to be ruled by justices on the Supreme Court who have put themselves above the law. They should be impeached and removed. And we need true tax reform, not just changing brackets and playing a game with the people of Alabama and people of America. We need to go back and look at taxes like the fair tax, which taxes consumption and not income. It would take a constitutional amendment, but we need to do some drastic things, get rid of the IRS, and start making a tax that is fair. We need to bring business back into our country, and we can do that very simply by cutting regulations, cutting taxes on businesses, and making it profitable for them to do business in this country again. We need to make Made in America mean something. And we need to revoke unfair free trade agreements that have been unfairly taking business from our country. And finally, we need to return prayer and the recognition of God to our public arena. This election, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, is not over. There's much left to do. I'm running to make a difference in Washington, and those in Washington are scared. They have been scared from the very beginning. Mitch McConnell on July 2nd said he didn't want a conservative rebel in the GOP that would be difficult to manage. Evidently, he wants one he can manage. You know, I want to say something special. One of the candidates that we campaigned against was Congressman Mo Brooks. Congressman Mo Brooks ran an ethical campaign. He suffered much of the earlier negatives of the Strange campaign. He, like others who stood against the Washington crowd, deserved better. If the Republican Party doesn't stand for ethical conduct, who will in Washington? Not only did those who support Luther Strange attack me, they did something worse. They attacked my wife and the foundation which we worked for many years to establish. They presented false ads, as you well know. Those ads have been proven false by Channel 13 investigative reporting, and you can find that on roymore.org at the news section. Over $1.2 million was spent last week on ads. Mr. Strange's response is that his involvement with such ads is that he deflects any relationship with Mitch McConnell. If you believe that, I've got some prime swampland in Florida I'd like to sell you. The people of Alabama will have a clear choice on September 26th as to who will represent them in the United States Senate. Will they choose a voice for Alabama or a voice for the Washington elite? It's very clear. Let me warn you about what is about to happen, and the news media had better beware. They're going to present the most negative campaign ads in the history of Alabama, and Luther Strange will tell you he has nothing to do with it. And if you believe that, they must be stopped. You know, I've been a fighter all my life. All my life. I fought as a farm boy to come up through the United States Military Academy. I fought in Vietnam to defend my country. I fought in the judicial branch to stand up for traditional marriage. I fought to retain the acknowledgement of God through a display of the Ten Commandments in the judicial building. In this race, I'll fight to see that the people of Alabama will retain their voice in the United States Senate. May God bless you in the state of Alabama, in the United States of America. Thank you.